All right. Well, this is the fourth of 6 scheduled open information sessions for student recruitment at YCA. Each of these individual sessions are focusing on one of our 6 research concentrations. Last week, we already did history and archaeology, politics and international relations, and law and society. Coming up on Wednesday and Friday of this week, we will be doing literature and culture, as well as economics and management. All of these information sessions are being recorded and will be uploaded to the Yenching Academy's official website, most likely under the admissions tab. So if there are other research areas that you're interested in potentially exploring for your application and your research at Yenching Academy, please look to our website to follow those information sessions. Furthermore, we will also be having several information sessions coming up in a few weeks that will be focusing more on applicants from individual regions around the world. You'll get to hear from different students who have successfully applied and graduated from YCA from different regions. Please look to our website for the upcoming schedule of those open information sessions as well. With that having been said, I'd like to go ahead and get started. Today, I am going to give about a 40-minute presentation that will give you an overview of YCA. Then we're also very fortunate to have 2 Yenching scholars joining us, both of whom are either graduated from or are currently working within the philosophy and religion subfield here at YCA. We have Stephen Yang, who was a member of the 2019 cohort, so he graduated a year ago. And we have Matthew Sylvester, who is just starting his 2nd year at YCA. He's a member of the 2021 cohort. After I wrap up my presentation, we'll hear first from Stephen and then from Matthew to talk about their motivation for applying to the program, perhaps some tips on how you might be successful in application and their experiences here, as well as their research interests. So we want to thank Stephen and Matthew for taking time out of their busy schedules to join us. I am Brent Haas. I am Associate Dean and Director of Admission Affairs here at the Yenching Academy, and it's my pleasure to introduce the program to you now. Okay, Peking University is China's oldest and most respected institution of higher education in the country. It was founded in 1898 as the Jingshi Daxuetang, the Imperial University of Peking. This was part of the 100 Days of Reform movement led by the second to last emperor of the Qing dynasty. Although since the name, the 100 Days of Reform, sort of indicates that it only lasted 100 days, was overall not as successful as it could have been. One of the lasting legacies was the founding of what would become Peking University. You can see a little bit bird's eye view of our campus here on the right-hand photo on this slide. If you're familiar with Beijing, PKU, like most other universities, are located in the northwest section of town. We're just slightly north of Zhongguancun, the sort of tech center of Beijing, and a little bit to the west of Wudaokou, the center of international and college student life in the city. It's a lovely place to live, research, and study. Here are a few more photos of PKU's lovely campus. I direct your attention to the bottom left. This is Weiminghu, No Name Lake. It's probably one of the most scenic and famous spots on PKU's campus. Lovely to walk around the lake during the day and get a sense of how the seasons change our gorgeous campus. Here are some more shots of PKU, with at least a few of them also focusing on Weiming Lake. Here we're looking at Jingyuan Courtyard. Jingyuan, this is not only a historically significant, a lovely spot of campus, it's also where YCA has our administrative building, our teaching building, as well as our large multimedia lecture hall and event space. Jingyuan it was built originally in the 1920s as part of a former university that used to be on our campus, Yenching University. Although I need to emphasize that Yenching University, despite sharing this campus of PKU now, and the fact that Yenching Academy is in some of the buildings that used to be part of Yenching University, these were 2 separate universities. At the time, Peking University's campus was down inside the Second Ring Road, pretty much to the slight northeast of the Forbidden City. When Yenching University closed in 1952, Peking University moved its academic facilities, its its faculty, its students out to the campus where we are now today. It's a fascinating historical spot. It's a beautiful place to walk around and to work. We also have a fairly famous mascot, Fengzhua. You can see the cat there. Fengzhua is one of the many, many cats that live on Peking University's campus, and he has adopted us and the Yenching Academy. If you're interested in learning about the lives of cats on PKU's campus, there's actually a student volunteer organization dedicated to caring for the cats, having them spayed and neutered, and reporting on their daily activities on social media. PKU itself is quite a large university, although not necessarily the largest in China. We have around 11,700 faculty members that are divided into 51 different schools and departments, as well as 10 national key laboratories. The faculty, in addition to the highly professional staff at Peking University, serve over 46,000 full-time students and about 4,400 international students. So what is the Yenching Academy at Peking University? Well, we are a 2-year fully funded master's program focusing in China studies. We investigate the changes that China has gone through over the last several decades, and how those changes have not only reshaped Chinese life, Chinese society, Chinese culture, but also how, as a result, China's role in the world has been changing as well. I have run the admissions program for the last several years, and I've had the great pleasure of teaching 4 or 5 classes of Yenching scholars in my time here. And I personally attest to the fact that those who join our program are brilliant, outstanding, fascinating, just generally interesting people that you want to be around. We're also involved in bringing the best practices of interdisciplinary education and interdisciplinary teaching methods to the already fully formed Chinese system of higher education at the graduate level. And we're also involved in an interesting process of defining what China studies as an academic discipline means, especially in the context of teaching and researching China studies at a Chinese university with Chinese faculty. China studies is still a fairly new area of academic inquiry in China. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how we've been integrating our interdisciplinary approach to China studies within the regulations and system of degrees in the PRC and as established by the Ministry of Education. And this final talking point here, catalyst for international dialogue. This sounds very talking pointy, so to speak, but it's actually quite true. When you have students from all around the world, different educational, cultural, religious, national backgrounds, different professional experiences coming into the program, but all with a shared interest in better understanding China. You're reading some of the same sources in class, studying with the same professors, whether it's in class discussions, in the cafeteria, in the dorm room, or just on campus. The discussions that you have that bring together multicultural perspectives, I think, do very much qualify for international dialogue, this description we're using here. It's always fascinating, sometimes challenging, but very, very worthwhile. So YCA is a residential college master's program. What that means is that all Yenching scholars in their first year live in the Yenching Academy House, a dormitory specially renovated and appointed for Yenching scholars. International scholars are required to live on campus for the first year, but they do have the option of moving off campus in Beijing for the second year, and we will offer a housing fund. Scholars from the Chinese mainland and from the regions of Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, however, are required to live on campus in the dormitory for both years. The language of administration and instruction at YCA is English. No prior knowledge of Mandarin Chinese, no proficiency, no fluency is required to be admitted into the program. But since we are a China Studies program at a Chinese university, you will have many, many opportunities to speak, learn, and hear Chinese in your daily life, whether it's meeting with other Peking University students or just practicing your Chinese with YCA's friendly staff. We encourage students to take courses outside of YCA's elective course offerings in other departments and schools around the university. Mainly for international students, that will be English taught courses. But if you are a native Chinese speaker or you have completed the HSK Level 6 test, you are eligible to place out of the Chinese as a second language courses, and we encourage you to take content courses taught in Chinese. It's a very, very exciting opportunity, but a serious challenge to do so. Let's talk funding. The Yenching Academy Fellowship for the first year offers tuition. It offers accommodation in the Yenching Academy house. It offers a monthly stipend for living expenses of 3,000 renminbi, which is, I think, 600 plus US dollars a month. I haven't checked the latest exchange rates. We offer for first year students one round trip travel stipend to and from Beijing from their home base, and medical insurance. This is a specific medical insurance plan designed for international students living and studying in China. Okay, we are a 2-year program, and we are a fully funded 2-year program. But when you think about how much we are investing in individual scholars, and remember that we have about 120 students per year and 2 classes of Yenching scholars with us at any time, I think you can recognize this is a very large investment we're making in our students. Therefore, we have instituted an academic performance review. At the end of your first year, the year in which all Yenching scholars complete their required courses, second year is left for internships, research, and writing your master's thesis. At the end of the first year, we conduct an academic performance review. If a student meets our clearly defined academic standards, such as minimum number of courses completed, such as maintaining a certain minimum GPA, such as not failing any of the required courses, etc., you apply for the second year fellowship and you will receive it as long as you meet the academic standards that we've set for you at the beginning of the first year. So you should consider this program 2-year MA program fully funded with an academic performance review at the end of the first year. We have plenty of other funding opportunities available for Yenching scholars. In the first year, the most notable one is the Dean's Research Grant. It is it's research funding for independent research, either individual or in groups, offered on a competitive basis. This is where students will either join into a group or on their own write a formal research proposal, what it is they hope to study, why it's important, situated in the academic literature, give us some plans on how you plan on carrying out this research, if we think it is feasible, if we think it is interesting, and if we think it is potentially going to make a contribution to the field in which you're engaging, then we will fund you for the first year. In the second year, also on a competitive basis, we offer positions that are paid, such as teaching assistantships, office assistantships, residential assistantships, and we also offer funding for second year intensive language study, whether it's continued Chinese language study or a second foreign language for our native Chinese speakers. This is an important slide, and I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about this one. As I said a few minutes ago, we are in a process of defining what interdisciplinary China studies as an area of academic inquiry means within the regulations and recognized degrees set by China's Ministry of Education. And this is how we have worked it out. We have 6 research areas that are all part of our broader degree China studies. Today, we're going to be focusing on philosophy and religion, but you can see the other 5 research areas that are important to your academic life at the Yenching Academy. Even, philosophy and religion is already quite broad and is quite interdisciplinary. But these 6 research areas, and whichever one you choose, will affect your experience at YCA in 3 main ways. The first is at the application stage. You will need to choose one of these research areas when you submit your application to the Yenching Academy. So what does that mean? It means that, of course, you want to pick something that you're interested in. That's very, very important when you're going through the intellectual challenges of graduate school. You must like and be fascinated by what you're studying. But it also means you should be strategic, because part of the admissions team responsibility is assessing your previous academic training, degrees, courses, research projects, papers, publications you may have, as well as some of your professional experience if it connects to the research area, and assess that together with the research area that you have chosen to determine whether or not there's a reasonable chance that, if admitted, you will be able to conduct graduate level research with a Peking University professor and write and defend a master's thesis that is up to the very exacting standards of Peking University. So if you perhaps have never taken any courses in philosophy or in Chinese civilization or Chinese religion, then you should anticipate that we're going to have some questions about the matching up of your academic background with the research area to which you're applying. This does not mean that you can only apply to a research area for which you already have a degree. It does not mean that, but you should recognize that this is part of our admissions evaluation process. And if you are concerned that perhaps there isn't an obvious connection between your degrees, the courses you've taken, and the research area that you're choosing, anticipate that we'll have those questions and try to address them in some of your application materials. Now, this is generally most pressing an issue for some of the social sciences like economics. If someone perhaps has an East Asian languages and literatures degree, East Asian languages and literatures is generally much more easily transferable to philosophy and religion than it necessarily would be transferable to economics and management. So if someone is applying to the economics and management but hasn't ever taken microeconomics, macroeconomics, statistical analysis, et cetera, there would be some legitimate questions about their ability to keep up with the fast pace of graduate level research at Peking University. So just want to make sure you're aware of that and be sure to take your own academic profile, honestly reflect on it, and tailor your application materials with this part of our review process in mind. Okay, the second way that your research area is important for your academic experience at YCA is the stage of selecting a thesis advisor. You will select your thesis advisor at the end of your first year when you are submitting a formal thesis proposal for our review. Your thesis advisor will need to be from a school or a department that is broadly defined within philosophy and religion. Very, very important. Now, we have a list of potential thesis advisors for you, should you be admitted, and we will tell you which category these professors are able to advise theses in. And then finally, when you graduate, this research area will appear on your diploma. It will say Peking University, Master of Philosophy, China Studies, Philosophy and Religion, or Peking University, Master of History, China Studies, History and Archaeology, Peking University, Master of Law, China Studies, Law and Society. This is because China Studies as a cohesive academic discipline in China is not yet recognized at the what's called first level degree, where it would say Master of China Studies. This is how we've been in the process of defining China Studies within the previously recognized academic disciplines as set by China's Ministry of Education. I'd like to tell you a little bit about our core courses. The courses that all Yenching scholars take. You can see them in the upper left of this slide. China in Transition 1 and 2 is a 2-semester, year-long interdisciplinary look at today's China. We will look historically, but mainly going back last 40 or 50 years, the period of reform and opening. The first semester is structured in terms of large lectures and then smaller breakout discussions. It is co-taught. In the first semester, we'll have modules on, say, Chinese society, Chinese civilization, Chinese economy, etc. And each of those modules will be taught by an individual or a team of leading PKU professors from different departments and schools. The large lecture ends after, I don't remember, an hour and a half or so, and then there's immediately a breakout discussion section led by teaching assistants, but that we break the students up into smaller groups for discussion about the readings and the lecture that they just saw. And then faculty members join the individual discussion sections and contribute to it that way. China in Transition Part 2, the spring semester version, it's a multiple courses. You pick the professor in the first semester whose interests and research area best aligns with yours, and you add into their class for the spring semester, where you dive a little bit deeper into their methodology of expertise, their field of research concentration. And you also, with their guidance, design and carry out a field research project within that methodology. So the point of this class is to dive deeper into one methodological lens of better understanding contemporary China, as well as giving you on-the-ground experience conducting field research in preparation for your master's thesis research in year 2. The field study is another core course that is a travel learning experience that includes mandatory lectures, readings before departure, and then we take all first-year Yenching scholars out of Beijing, out of the classroom, and learn about a different city or region's current state, history, culture, ecology, economy, infrastructure, etc. It's a fun but intense week-long travel experience. The China Studies Lecture Series is a year-long series of seminars and lectures that brings together leading figures in fields that are broadly defined as China Studies. They might be academics, artists, business leaders, diplomats, what have you. And they come and give lectures about their research area, about their careers, and then have a session of Q&A with Yenching scholars. Then academic writing is a course that we bring in different PKU professors who give you their experience and advice in a step-by-step process of deciding on a topic, designing your research project, carrying it out, drafting your paper, and defending your thesis. All international students are required to take Chinese language courses in their first year, unless you have completed and passed the HSK level 6 within the last 2 years. If so, you can then apply to place out of the language courses, but you're still required to fulfill those same academic course credits, and we strongly encourage you to do so with at least one content course taught in Chinese at another department or school at the university. Scholars from the Chinese mainland, Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan are also required to take a first foreign language, non-English foreign language courses. So the next 2 slides are going to tell you about the major elective courses that are on offer for the 2022-2023 academic year. These are courses taught by Yenching Academy. There are plenty of other courses taught in other departments and schools at PKU, and you will be able to choose from those once you arrive here. You can see here, this is going to be the humanities. We have history and archaeology, philosophy and religion, literature and culture. The next slide will be more of the social sciences plus economics. I want to emphasize one important thing. Although these slides are, in columns defined by the research areas, all Yenching scholars are free to choose whatever elective course they want, regardless of what the research area you have chosen is. You are not limited to courses defined as philosophy and religion if you have chosen the philosophy and religion research area. We are an interdisciplinary program, and we encourage you to take extracurricular or to take elective courses across disciplines. So you can think of mixing and matching your philosophy and religion, but you are also interested in history. So development of Chinese civilization, formation of Chinese civilization, cultural heritage. These are very, very obvious potential connections that can help you build up your knowledge base and better prepare you for whatever your philosophy and religion research area master's thesis will be. Here you can see some of the elective courses in the social sciences and economics. So there are plenty of other courses in here that, depending on what your specific research interest is, could be very valuable in bringing in interdisciplinary methods and interdisciplinary knowledge to your developing master's thesis project. Perhaps cultural dimensions of China's foreign relations would be something that might be interesting for you if you're looking at different, historical foreign relations policies and trying to see whether or not they are connected to certain aspects of traditional Chinese civilization. So these are what are on offer in 2022 to 2023. They will largely be the same in the 2023 to 4 academic year, but there could be some changes. Here are a selection of master's thesis research topics that Yenching scholars in recent years from philosophy and religion have chosen. I want to put this up here so you can look and get a sense of the diverse potential topics that you can explore here at YCA. A Confucian perspective on artificial intelligence. That sounds fascinating. It is, grounded in the philosophy and religion research area, but it's bringing in a very, very different topic that perhaps might not be normally associated with philosophy and religion. So there's a lot that you can do. And I hope that both in your statement of research interest, one of the required application documents, and over the next year, and when you arrive and are choosing courses in your first year, you think about how you can make an interesting interdisciplinary China studies research thesis topic. So one of the unique selling points of YCA, especially in China's system of graduate education, is our unique system of academic advisors. Most Yenching scholars will have 2 academic advisors, formal academic advisors in their 2 years here. In the first year, it's your faculty advisor. You will, through a process of review and mutual selection, rank the 3 or 5 professors who you hope would be your academic advisor, and they will review your bio, your CV, your courses, and then if both of you choose each other, then you have your faculty advisor. That'll take place in the first month that you're here. The faculty advisor in year 1 is there to introduce you to the academic community at Peking University, to learn about your developing research interests, to recommend classes and elective courses that you should take. Hopefully, the faculty advisor will be an expert in the field that you're most interested in, but even if they are not, they will know the people at Peking University who are, so they can also serve as someone who introduces you to other faculty members that you should get to know. At the end of the first year, when you're wrapping up your courses, you will submit a formal thesis proposal, and at that time, you will choose your thesis advisor for your second year. Now, it's great if your first year faculty advisor continues as your thesis advisor, but it's not required. And I would say it's not the majority of situations in which the first year advisor becomes the second year thesis advisor. These are 24 schools and departments around the university from which we draw our 140 academic advisors that are available to mentor you. The fall field study, as I mentioned, is the required course where we take students. For the last few years, we've been going to Sichuan province, Chengdu, its surrounding areas, and Chongqing municipality. For the first few years of YCA, we took students to Xi'an in Shanxi province in sort of northern, northwestern China. This is a travel experience, but it's grounded in learning, in studying and preparing beforehand. And we give you different slices, both historical, cultural, economic, high-tech, infrastructure-based slices of what that region and that city is like. So yes, when you're in Sichuan, you're going to go see the pandas. You're going to eat, delicious, spicy Sichuanese cuisine, but you're also going to go get access to archaeological excavation sites and watch the archaeologists working. You're going to go to a company that has now started a very successful natural disaster early warning system in Sichuan province. You're going to go to the new airport that was just built. You're going to go see how urban planners are building new sections of the city. It is a fascinating and intense trip. In the spring, both as part of the China in Transition Part 2, the spring semester course, we also encourage our faculty members to design field research projects that include our students. These are based on the professor's interests and expertise, and YCA funds these field study opportunities as part of China in Transition. We also encourage other electives to incorporate field study and field research into their curricula whenever appropriate. YCA also funds this as well. We work very hard to show our students what ways they can use their China Studies master's degree after they leave, not just in academia. Through our talented colleagues in the Student Affairs Office, we've been continuously developing and improving our career training and career development programs. We will have recruiting events on campus. We have meet and greets and roundtable and fora where young professionals or professionals later on in their career come and share advice and experience in different fields. Most of the work that we're able to do, practically speaking, is focused on career paths within China. But it's also something that we're continually improving on. We now have just implemented, I believe it was this year, or it was last year or the year before, we now have professional advisors programs where we have successful professionals in different careers in and around mainly Beijing, who are able to mentor some of our students. You can have meet and greets, learn about their career, get advice from them, do some professional shadowing, etc. After graduation, Yenching scholars are incredibly successful, taking the next step in their career and moving on to bigger and better things. About 20%, roughly, maybe a quarter of Yenching scholars go on to further graduate study, generally at the doctoral level, although we do have plenty of scholars who go on to law school and even some who go on to med school. You can see some of the top universities where Yenching scholars continue their graduate career. And on the right, you can see some businesses, consulting firms, international organizations, et cetera, where Yenching scholars begin or continue their young careers after graduating from our program. The Yenching Global Symposium is YCA's flagship extracurricular event. It is a highly competitive international conference on one aspect of what we might call China Studies. It is designed, organized, carried out, and fully run by Yenching scholars themselves. The Yenching Academy staff offers support wherever we can. You can see the first 5 Yenching Global Symposia. Last year, or I should say this year's, the 2022 Yenching Global Symposium was conducted online due to travel restrictions based on COVID-19, but it looked at the trend against globalization that has become prominent over the last few years and wondered about what paths forward might there be in this balancing between globalization and anti-globalization. Give you a little information about Yenching scholars, backgrounds. So you can see we've had just under 860 scholars from 84 different countries and regions in the first 8 cohorts of Yenching scholars. We are a truly diverse international academic community. Obviously, there's more. We want to improve our enrollments from Africa and Latin America, but we're continuing to work on that as we speak. In the first 8 cohorts, we've had scholars join our program after graduating from just under 350 top universities around the world. What you're seeing here are the universities that have placed the highest number of graduates into Yenching Academy. There are many, many more. So obviously, these are some of the top universities in the world. You don't have to be a graduate from an Ivy League school to get into YCA. We have many, many students from all over the world join us, but just these are some relevant statistics about the highest number of placements over the first 8 cohorts. The majority of Yenching scholars are recent graduates from their bachelor's degree or post-bachelor, and they've worked for a few years. Although we do have a significant number of Yenching scholars, maybe 20%, who join our program with a previous postgraduate degree, generally another master's degree, although we do have some who join after completing law school as well. Philosophy and religion, like the humanities in general, has a smaller number of enrollments at YCA than economics and management, politics and international relations, or even law and society. Obviously, I would like to have a more evenly balanced distribution of research areas, but I do want to say we have no quotas. This is not a result of a planned, distribution between the humanities and social sciences. Instead, this simply represents the research areas that the best applicants in any given year had selected. We want you to study what you're interested in when you're here. The 8th cohort, 2022 Yenching scholars, had 111 scholars from 27 different countries and regions. You can see the regional breakdown, sometimes going down to the national level here on this slide. Here's the highest number of placements in the 2022 8th cohort, scholars from 96 different universities. And these 18 universities you see here, just the ones that placed 2 or more Yenching scholars in our program in 2022. Okay, I'm going to have a sip of water, and then we're going to talk about application strategies. So, what are we looking for in a potential applicant to YCA? And we are a fully funded, highly competitive graduate program in China studies at China's top university. So academic excellence is expected from all of those who join our program. So we are going to look at and we are going to highly value an outstanding academic record in any potential applicant. But that's not all we're looking for. We also value extracurricular activities that are important to you, who you are as a young scholar, as a young adult, things that perhaps define your personality, things that can show ways that you can contribute to our student community outside of the classroom. Are you an artist, an athlete, a musician? Have you started your own company? Are you committed to community outreach, social justice, charity? These are things that we're very, very interested in knowing. So please emphasize them in your application materials, whether it's your personal statement or perhaps on your CV. As a multicultural academic community that studies China, we are very interested in students who have experience in and or commitment to multiculturalism. We are also, we highly value applicants who have background in China studies or experience in Chinese language or travel in China or having lived in China. It is not required. You do not have to be an East Asian languages and cultures major with a Chinese language minor and have studied abroad already in mainland China in order to be admitted. We like those applicants, and every year we get a significant number of them. But we also like other kinds of applicants, perhaps those who just started their academic journey in relation to China, perhaps those who haven't yet, but are seeing the growing role of China in their home country or their home region's economy, or someone who is completely focused on other disciplines, say economics, and realize at this point in their career that their career path will require them to be better educated about, more knowledgeable of, and more culturally competent in relation to China. And so at this point, either if it's after their MBA or after their bachelor's degree or after a few years of work, now they hope to come to YCA and achieve greater cultural and intellectual fluency in relation to China. We also welcome and want those kinds of applicants as well. I personally think if every single Yenching scholar had the exact same academic profile, then it wouldn't be as interesting in the classroom. Rather, having someone who is a fully fledged, China-related degree holder with someone who is only starting their academic journey related to China, but also equally brilliant and accomplished in other fields, having students like that together in the dormitory and the classroom raises interesting questions and leads to better learning outcomes in the classroom and between students themselves. Like any graduate program you're applying to, any job you're applying to, we need to see a well-articulated rationale for why you want to come to China, why you want to study at YCA, what you hope to study here, and how you think it'll help you achieve your career goals, whatever those goals may be. And since we are an English taught program, English language proficiency is required. Okay, so in the application process, we essentially have sort of two separate, almost three separate application systems. For scholars from the Chinese mainland, PRC citizens, the only way for PRC citizens to currently apply to the Yenching Academy is through what's known as the National Postgraduate entrance examination exemption process, 推免. That means you have to have attended or be attending undergraduate programs at a Chinese university in the mainland, and through your academic performance in your school or department, your Paiying, your ranking, your GPA, your letters of recommendation, qualify for exemption from the graduate school entrance examination. If you are a PRC citizen who's attended your undergraduate university abroad, unfortunately, at this point, you are unable to apply to YCA. International students will apply to our application portal. It's the standard, fill out the application form, statement of, personal statement, statement of research interest, CV, letters of recommendation. For applicants from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, they will follow the same application process as international students in the YCA application portal. And they also have a separate application at the Graduate School at Peking University, specifically for applicants from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. So so-called HMT applicants have to complete both YCA's application and PKU's application for applicants from that region. If you don't complete the PKU application, you cannot be considered for an interview. So for international candidates, the application system is open from August 15th to November 27th, 2022. If you are from one of our partner universities, then you have to apply directly to your partner university, generally in the Office of Fellowships. Please refer to our website to see if your university is one of the dozens of partner universities for Yenching Academy around the world. If you are a non-native English speaker, or you are not enrolled in a degree granting program that is taught in English, then you will need to submit a certificate of English proficiency, the standard English proficiency tests, IELTS, TOEFL, Cambridge. We will need to see, if you're a current student, we need to see your official certificate of enrollment, generally offered by your university registrar. And we need to see diplomas from any institution of higher education from which you have already graduated. If you're a fourth-year student in undergrad applying now, we will need your registrar office produced certificate of enrollment. And once you are enrolling at YCA, if you're accepted, then we need to see your diploma. And these are hard copy diplomas, the actual diploma. We need transcripts from all bachelor's or master's or other graduate programs, official academic transcripts. We need a personal statement in English, maximum of 750 words. This is the standard grad school application personal statement: who you are, why you're interested in our program, what you want to study here, what you want your career to be, how you think you can achieve your career goals by studying with us, and perhaps how you think you can contribute to our community. We also have what's called the Statement of Research Interest. This is maximum 1,500 words in English, excluding citations. This is your academic or research-focused introduction to us. It can be a fully formed research proposal, with a set of questions, with positioning your research within academic literature, methodology for how to complete it, etc. But it should only be a fully formed research proposal if you have a fully formed research project that you want to do at YCA. I want to emphasize, we do not want to see research proposals from previous research projects or research projects that you are currently doing. We want the statement of research interest to be about what you hope to research when you're here with us. So we don't call it a research proposal, we call it a statement of research interest to give you a little bit more leeway. This is a piece of formal academic writing. You should be engaging with academic literature connected to the topic or topics that you hope to explore at YCA. We want to see your resume, and we need, and this is important, 2 letters of recommendation. The formal letters of recommendation must be academic, and they must come from associate professor, full professors, or higher. This is the standard requirement at Peking University and all top graduate programs in China. If you have letters of reference from an assistant professor, or from perhaps a manager and some internships you've had, we're happy to look at those, but they must be submitted as additional documents, and they can't fulfill the academic letters of recommendation requirement. For applicants from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, our application portal opened on August 15th. PKU's application portal, the graduate school application portal for HMT candidates, has not yet said when they'll close, but it's going to be a little bit later than our other one, probably in early January. Please go to our website and familiarize yourself with all the details for applying to the Peking University graduate school application system for Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwanese candidates. Please do so. You will see that the letters of recommendation, or that everything is pretty much the same, except two important clarifications. If you are from Hong Kong, Macau, or Taiwan, and you have not yet graduated from an English taught degree program, if you have not yet completed your bachelor's degree at a university taught in English, you will need to submit a certificate of English proficiency, IELTS, TOEFL, Cambridge. Also, the letters of recommendation must be from associate professors, full professors, or higher, specifically within the field to which you're applying, so within the research area to which you're applying for concentration at YCA. That's all I have for you today. You can look here at our contact information. Please go to yenchingacademy.pku.edu.cn for more details. Look at how we structure our program, look at the faculty members, look at the profiles of current Yenching scholars. It'll give you a better sense of the diversity of backgrounds, academically and professionally, that got people to our program, the interesting things they're doing while they're here. You can see our social media as well. Okay, thank you very much for your time and your patience. I'm going to stop my sharing now. It's my great pleasure to turn the floor over first to Steve Yan. Steve is going to offer us some of his thoughts about his experiences and his recommendations for you when you apply. I will now be turning to see if there are any questions in the Q&A. I would like to ask anyone who's attending today's seminar, please type any questions you might have into the Q&A function or the chat function, and either we will answer them in the chat box or we'll indicate that we'll answer them live. These questions can be addressed to me. They can be addressed to either of our two Yenching Scholar presenters. Steve, thanks so much for joining us. The floor is now yours.
Thank you, Professor Haas. Thank you, everyone, for your interest in YCA. Let me first share my screen. I have a PPT prepared. Okay, can everyone see the screen? My PPT here? Okay, perfect.
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Let me just do a very brief introduction of myself. I'm Steve. I'm from the cohort of 2019, the 5th cohort of YCA. While I was at YCA, I was also a Baisian scholar. So my funding for YCA was actually funded by the Baisian Asia Institute. I'm a Singaporean, and I did my undergraduate degree in Vanderbilt University in the United States. And I studied philosophy since undergrad. So it's been a consistent interest for me. And while I was in the US, my academic interest in philosophy was mainly from a Western perspective, as you can know, the basic introduction to logic, epistemology, and all these very Western-centric subject branches within philosophy, which was why I was very interested to find out more about the other side of the philosophy story, right, which is the Eastern side and the Chinese philosophy side. And I've also been very involved in student organizations, such as organizing the philosophy club. I started the club back in Vanderbilt, and I decided to continue that legacy in Yenching Academy. So we had quite a number of people who were interested in philosophy, even though they were not from the philosophy research concentration while I was in Yenching Academy. And we were very glad to convert one of them who studied, actually not just one, like a couple of them who studied economics and management, to change their discipline to research concentration to philosophy due to their exposure to philosophy readings and discussions while we were at Yenching Academy. So my past work experience includes various things at the Singapore government. I'm actually bonded to the Singapore government as a government scholar. And thanks to the Singapore government, I also had sponsorship to do a one-year work attachment program at UNESCO headquarters in Paris. In fact, I just came back to Singapore about a month ago, and I will start my first posting in the Singapore government in the Ministry of Education, working in the higher education planning sector. So about my experience in YCA, actually, currently I'm also alumni secretary. So I'm in charge of my cohort's gatherings. And in fact, over the past few months, I've organized quite a few of these gatherings. And during these gatherings, while I was in Europe, I obviously met people who are based in Europe and mostly European scholars. And while I came back to Singapore, I gathered the Singaporean scholars. But the consistent perspective or consistent narrative is that we all definitely enjoyed our time in YCA. For the 5th cohort, we had 1 semester on campus. So that was about 4 months before COVID struck and we were forced out of campus. But every time as an alumnus, when we as alumni when we gather together, I always reminisce and I always boldly claim that the 4 months I had on campus with all the other Yenching scholars were perhaps the happiest 4 months over the past few years, or at least, or maybe even past 10 years of my life. So that's a very bold statement, but I think it is very true for me. That is because of how enriching my experience at YCA was. So beyond the academic academic exchanges with the other scholars and also with the very helpful professors in YCA, we had a lot of fun and meaningful activities both on site and even online when we had COVID. We still bonded over many activities online. And I cannot recommend enough, if you go to Beijing, please try the jianbing. It's always my favorite food, favorite snack, and always miss it. And as my suggestions to all of you who are thinking of applying to YCA, like what Professor Brent has shared, please think very carefully about why you're interested in China. Because although we come from very diverse backgrounds, we do have one thing in common, that is our interest in China. It doesn't have to be strictly in terms of philosophy of China. It can be, the sociology aspect of it, economic development aspect of it. But that is the common theme, that you are going to apply to a program that's based in China, and you are going to spend quite a significant amount of time and effort living and studying in China. So I think making that very clear and consistent is the biggest tip I can give. So without further ado, I will just share more about my what I did and what I was interested in while I was doing the philosophy and religion concentration at YCA. So for me, my 1 semester in Yenching Academy was already very fruitful. I managed to build close relations and connections with 2 professors. One became my thesis advisor, Professor Cheng Le, and Professor Rhoda Ames, whom I'm still working with at the Berggruen Institute Research Center at Peking University. So both these professors were very helpful, and I attended a lot of their office hours, and because of our close relations, I decided to continue working with them even after I've graduated. So regarding my thesis, I was more interested in political philosophy, but that is a very Western concept. So what I did was to try to do a little bit of comparative aspect to it. I branded it as the philosophy of politics instead of political philosophy, because political philosophy, as we know from the analytical stance, we think about questions about justice, about equality, about freedom. But philosophy of politics in the Chinese sense is very different, and it's a very different thought system. Therefore, my thesis was about clarifying these different concepts and offering this conceptual clarity so that scholars later on can have a greater tools for analysis if they want to delve deeper into the comparison of these two. So I was looking at the concept of the way of governance, which is 治道 in Chinese, and the system of administration. I've looked at the works of Laozi, Confucius, Xunzi, Han Feizi. So this historical period was basically, I was focusing on the warring states to the 3 kingdoms, which is pre-Qin to late Han. So that was my focus. And I thoroughly enjoyed the process, even though it was entirely done in Singapore, actually. So I was actually writing the thesis in the National Library in Singapore, but Professor Cheng Le, who was my thesis advisor, he was very responsible, and every time I have a question, I could reach out to him on WeChat, and we had regular discussions. So that was very, very beneficial to me as a young scholar. So yeah, I had a great experience academically as well as a scholar who concentrated in philosophy and religion. So I think this is my last slide. I will pass the time to Matthew.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, Stephen. We have a few questions in here. So after Matthew finishes his presentation, Stephen, would you look, I think maybe the third question about modern political philosophy might be something that would be better addressed by you two. Matthew, please go ahead.
Fantastic. Thanks, Professor Haas. Hi, I'm Matthew Sylvester. As a 7th cohort Yenching scholar, I'm currently in my 2nd year at YCA, where my area of focus is philosophy and religion. I'm South African, born and raised in Cape Town, where I'm currently based before flying to China in about 3 weeks' time, which is very exciting. I attended the University of Cape Town, where I studied actuarial science as an undergrad and mathematical finance as a master's. And if actuarial science can be largely summarized as mathematics and statistics applied to liability and thus insurance pricing, then mathematical finance centered on the pricing side of the accounting equation and was mostly focused on derivatives. So yeah, quite a different background, what I'm studying at Yenching, and I'll delve into what prompted this change in a bit. But my work experience or background consists mainly of a variety of internships in that data science-y sort of finance field, and 2 significant work experiences would be spending about 5 or 6 weeks in Cairo, Egypt, providing financial consulting to a large Pan-African bank, and then working as a quant or as a quantitative developer for a South African insurer, where I wrote code and productionized models to price a variety of financial instruments. And I did this for about a year before taking a few months off before starting at Yenching last September. And yeah, why did I apply to YCA? What motivated me to apply to the philosophy and religion track, given that my academic background is so different? Firstly, and most importantly, and this might come across as a little strange, I was sort of very aware that my previous degrees were geared towards a specific line of career development. And these were decisions I had made around 18 or 19. So I was, 22, 23, looking to commit to a career. And I thought that there were a host of things that I hadn't quite explored yet in a formal academic environment. And YCA offered precisely this. I've always like cultivated an amateurish interest in philosophy, literature, and history, but I lacked the formal exposure, and I've always enjoyed the challenge posed by intensive study. So YCA was a chance to explore these interests, to challenge myself and become better read in a different field, while also learning a new language, living in a new country for a sizable amount of time, and interacting with the really interesting classmates that Yenching sort of draws. And while my exposure to Eastern thought and China itself had been minimal before YCA, what attracted me to the program was the area studies sort of concept, and as such, the ability to combine a variety of disciplines, sociology, history, economics, philosophy, all with a shared theme or area of focus. And my experience as a Yenching scholar has been precisely that in my first year. The diversity of course options offered this chance to combine interests in almost a tailored manner. And I could choose a course here and there with a specific topic or interest in mind and weave my own curriculum, focusing on a few niche concepts and things. And in doing so, I was exposed to a wide variety of scholarship, often finding synergy and interesting relations in the least likely of places. So not only was I taking courses in the philosophy and religion track, but I was writing about, say, Confucianism in contemporary China in a sociology course, or in an art of China course, I would be writing about the introduction of esoteric Tibetan Buddhism aesthetics under the UN and its influence on imperial portraiture. And as I've put in my previous slide, a highlight was pursuing some of my own research interests, which YCA actively encourages. And I presented at a conference hosted by the University of Milan. This was virtually online, called Language Teaching and Politics in Arabic and Chinese, where I focused on the socio-political elements of Latinizing the Chinese script during the Chinese script reform movement of the early 20th century. And my current thesis topic is a coming together or a mishmash of my prior background in statistics with this interest in philosophy. And I'm looking at exploring some new methods within the so-called distant reading approach of the digital humanities, which uses quantitative methods to analyze large bodies of texts, religious texts, philosophical texts, and investigate the internal relationships between these texts, supposedly as opposed or maybe hand in hand with the traditional hermeneutics of close reading. So my topic is tentatively titled The Thematic Clustering of the Ancient Chinese Philosophical Corpus, an exploration of probabilistic topic modeling applied to C text. A little bit of a mouthful, but yeah. And my thesis advisor, who was initially my faculty advisor in my first year, providing some curriculum advice, is Professor Roger T. Ames, who, if you've spent some time reading scholarship on Chinese philosophy and thought, will quickly recognize as one of the defining figures in contemporary scholarship. So that's been an amazing experience for me to have access to and develop a relationship with such a distinguished scholar. And what else do I have? Oh, while my first year was remote with online learning for those in our cohort who couldn't make it to China, I think the effort, passion, the interest generated within our cohort has been a definite highlight. Remote learning is tough, was tough and draining. And in the case, I think both being distant from your classmates and also from your object or area of study, which is China in itself, was disheartening at times. I think the Yenching community ethos was a definite boon and really helpful. So I'm sure this will only be more true once we're all living together on campus. So yeah, the community aspect is something I'm definitely looking forward to. And my advice to some prospective students, I think naturally, as Professor Haas has mentioned, highlight your previous experience, your China experience, how this came about, how you've cultivated this interest over time, what has attracted you personally and influenced you personally. And if, like me, you're new to China studies, again, what aspect attracts you? How do you foresee this changing and shaping you in the future? And importantly, what equips you to transition to this new field and be competent enough to thrive? And lastly, what differentiates you from a whole host of other extremely competent applicants? What is unique about your background, your learning, your interests? And then lastly, some advice from our own anecdotal experience to those who do study at YCA. And I think this is derived from what I've really enjoyed about China studies as a field, and that's to think about the balance between breadth and depth. China studies, like many other area studies, but perhaps more so because of the length of its history, its demographic and geographical scale, offers students perhaps the best of both. You know, that, and naturally it's a trade-off between breadth and depth. I think spend some time in an exploratory mode, search widely. I think you'd be surprised at what topic, perhaps rather niche, you find interesting and arresting. And after an initial exploratory drive, be prepared to become obsessed and delve deeply. So yeah, with this, I'd say expand your knowledge by focusing on the so-called meta tools, modes of thinking, methods of analysis, conceptual frameworks that are informed by China, but also carry over to understanding contemporary society and the interconnected global world. So in short, to run into the risk of lapsing into a trite cliche, always reflect on how to think. Thank you. Cheers. I'm not sure if there are any questions as well.
All right. Well, Steve, Matthew, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure seeing you again. Thank you for your time and for the excellent presentations. I hope both of you take care, and we really appreciate your time. With this, we're going to go ahead and close today's Philosophy and Religion Open Information session. Please go to our website, and I wish you all luck, and I hope to see your applications coming up soon. Thanks so much.